near where I work. And why is that important? Well, it's important because if we take something else which is important to teachers, maybe not important in the wider sense of education and moving education forward, if we take exams, right, and certainly in Scotland and in England and in Wales and in Northern Ireland, yeah, one very, very popular question in examination questions around geography is take an Ordnance Survey map extract and to describe the physical features of the river, from its source all the way down to its mouth. I don't know whether you've noticed this is why I can't understand why sometimes young people don't do very well at geography. It's the same question, they just change the place every single year, isn't it? So if you get that right, you should be able to nail it. So actually that kind of river-esque article, what that is just an example of some students that then used the map extract, right, to follow the source to the mouth, and as they went through, they wrote the article. And of course the beauty of it, this is the screenshot that I took last night from 2006, as we can see how other things, have been changed there. And I kind of mentioned this already, but this is the kind of beauty, I think, of this idea of niche markets, which I think are really, really important for schools. And I think that there are lots of things in Wikipedia that have been written. I think there are lots of things that will continue to be improved, because that's the whole idea of an encyclopedia anyway. But there's also lots of things that haven't been written and will never be published in formal text, probably because it's not financially viable. But there will be a whole group of people that will be interested, in these things. And having students and other people going out and researching these different areas and writing them up as formal articles, I think is immensely powerful. And I think it links places, in particular local places, and local connections. And of course the biggest Wikipedia niche market, I think, is schools. I don't know if many of you will have children. If you go on your son and daughter's school website, I can guarantee it won't be very good. Right? Because schools, for some reason, don't have very good websites. I mean, they might be good, that's just a kind of blanket statement. Some of them are very good, but the majority of them aren't, for some reason. And I don't understand why, because surely one of the requirements of the inspectorate is to have good relationships, good communication methods with parents and staff, or parents in the schools. Yeah? And what's the first port of call? Well, it's a website, isn't it? To find out what's going on, to get a feel of what's going on, in the school. And this is, Musselburgh Grammar School is the school that I'm seconded from at the moment. And if I Google Musselburgh Grammar School, and somebody was talking about Google as I came in, what's the kind of second entrance down that we've got there? Well, it's the Wikipedia article. And that's actually really, really quite handy, because if that Wikipedia article's good, then chances are people will either click on the school website or the Wikipedia article. Which means anything that's negative that's been written about the school, which has been digitised, which is on the press and it's available online, that's going to get lower Google juice, it's going to be further down the list. Right? Because we want to try and steer people away from that in terms of, I guess, some data management. And I can click on that and I can see what that article is like. And wouldn't it be like a really, really interesting thing if we wanted to get schools on board actually understanding what Wikipedia was? Because I can guarantee that there'll be a huge amount of teachers who don't realise that it's an encyclopedia that can be edited. They just think it's a reference, guide more than anything else. Wouldn't it be a really, really good and easy initiative, if there was some kind of campaign to get every single school in the UK on Wikipedia? We could even suggest some titles for it. The location of the school, the history of the school, right? Famous pupils that have been to the school, some pictures from the local area, get a massive database of pictures and other things there, that have been built up. But it would also be a really, really useful resource, right? Because it would show and it would demonstrate, what that school is and the life of the school, as well. And I think that would be a simple win and something we should maybe, sort of try and think about how to promote. The other thing, I guess, is thinking about, well, how do we link Wikipedia, into the curriculum? Again, for such a small place, we've got 4 different curriculums, in the United Kingdom, and obviously the one in England at the moment is under massive review. We don't quite know what's going to happen that yet. But I can guarantee that one thing that won't be in the curriculum is teachers have to use Wikipedia and pupils will have to use Wikipedia. I can guarantee it won't be. That will never be in there. It's not in the Scottish one or anything like that. But what we need to do is, if we really want to promote this technology in schools, is we need to think about, well, where does this fit in? Right? How does it fit into the curriculum? So we've just launched our new curriculum in Scotland. It's been in place from August this year. This is an outcome that all young people are expected to achieve at the start of their secondary schooling. Right? And this is talking about critical literacy in the digital age. Recognised persuasion. Right? Assessing the reliability of information and credibility of information. How does that fit in? An important thing. And just like many experience-based curriculums, right, which seems to be a general kind of global trend at the moment, people are going away from a more outcomes-based to an experience-based curriculum. we need to emphasise that understanding digital sources as part of this, is equally as important as understanding traditional text-based sources. In fact, I look at that as a technologist, and I think that's not just about books, right? I think that's about digital books, I think that's about websites, I think that's about pictures, I think that's about film, I think that's about all of these things. And of course, if we want to take it a stage further and really get teachers buy-in with this, to actually make them understand why it's important, is then we explain why it's important. Because a young person looking at any digital source, if they cannot critically analyse it, if they cannot find out where that information came from and make their own judgment about it, how are we, or how are they, in future in life, actually going to make those links back to internet safety and responsible use? So when they're talking to somebody online, how are they going to know if that person is who they say or not? And it's exactly the same critical question, it's exactly the same critical thought process that you would go through if it was a piece of digital text, a book, or anything else. And I think we need to be pointing this out to teachers and trying to link together this in a wider agenda. But it's hard, isn't it? I mean, you're all here, and to get like a bigger uptake for Wikipedia and other things is difficult. And we've been trying it for 10 years, haven't we? Right? And there's lots of people that visit the website, but there's not everybody that uses it, perhaps in the way that we like, or maybe needs to understand it. So I think we need to start thinking about taking these people on, a little bit. And I think the way to do that is to first of all think about actually what are the challenges, and how do we get around them? Because I think that if we're trying to advocate Wikipedia in schools, there'll be this whole kind of group of people there that would say, well what's the point? Why don't I just use that traditional encyclopedia that we bought in 1990 with those Tesco's vouchers? Right, it's in the school library. That's worked absolutely fine for now. There'll be a lot of people that are saying that, and I think that I think there are lots of ways that you can present that argument. But I think that we have to remember that a lot of people in this room are really into Wikipedia, and we've got to take this right back to basics. Right, we've got to go back to a group of people that don't understand it. They don't understand the technology, and they don't understand what it can do. And we've got to go back to pointing out some of these basics. I think there's lots of ways to do that. I remember picking this up on a blog a few years ago. The whole kind of idea of visualization. Of, well actually, if we take these kind of featured articles, why would we print that out? Right, because as soon as we print it out, it's going out of date, almost straight away. What else, can this technology represent? I think there'd be a whole group of teachers as well that would say, well, yeah, Wikipedia is great, but all it's really done in schools is it's encouraged young people to cut and paste. Right, we call it the cut and paste culture. And I get them to go away and I get them to research something, and sometimes they just hand in a Wikipedia page, right, and sometimes they're clever enough to cut and paste it into Word, so they get that kind of funny URL, across the top. Right, but all it's doing is it's encouraging children to cut and paste, don't understand the content. All right, so again, I think we need to work with teachers to say, well, yeah, but maybe what you've got there is you've got a problem with the wrong task. Right, you've got the wrong task. So, if we're asking young people to go away and research something, one of the sources that they might use is Wikipedia, but why don't you get them to deconstruct and reconstruct the text, and put it and assess it in a different way, because then they'll have to understand the argument and the meaning, before presenting that back to you. I mentioned the Common Agricultural Policy earlier. I don't know if you've seen this website. It's free. I love it. It's called Pixton. It's like a comic generator. One of the tasks that we did was we were getting the young people to go away and do the Common Agricultural. I'm almost falling asleep saying it. The Common Agricultural Policy was in the exams. They have to learn it. Right, and they go away and they research the Common Agricultural Policy, and they come back. And one of the ways that they could assess their answer, was a comic strip. Right, and what you got then is this kind of like wonderful dialogue where probably a lot of the content has come from Wikipedia or another source. Right? But because they've taken the text, because they've had to read it, understand it, deconstruct it, and then reconstruct it as a conversation, right, you can probably make the assumption that the young people have got a greater understanding about this as well. And maybe we need a whole kind of toolkit for teachers, trying to explain about how these tools can be used to assess and present the work in different ways. Because, of course, the next question will be, isn't it, from these teachers, this kind of group of cynics that we've got as well, Wikipedia is great, but how do we get kids to reference it in exams? And you think to yourself, well, surely we can come up with a solution to that, can't we? Now, it'd be an interesting question, because we could say to people, well, how do you reference Wikipedia? And I reckon there might be some people in the room that could say, I could do that. And there'll be some people in the room who say, well, that's not the point, you'd actually reference the articles within it. There'd be probably a massive disagreement of opinion a little bit. But surely that would be a fairly easy thing to solve, wouldn't it? If we all started to talk to each other as Parliament. Yep.
There's a button on the page.
A button on the page.